I first heard that Britain had declared war on Germany, everyone was a bit stunned by it, I know. Wondered what was going to happen next. I think everyone expected air raids straight away.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us.
I started off as a boy in the Merchant Navy, and then when the war broke out and the ship I was on was taken up by the Royal Navy, and so I came ashore, and at the same time I met a young lady, so I decided not to go back to sea anymore, and then I eventually got called up into the army. Well, I was down in Essex at the time, undergoing training. We could see that there was a build-up of troops and tanks and things like that. So that went on for some time, and then we were locked up in a camp in a place called Aveley in Essex, and someone said to me, there is a gap in the fence and quite a few of the blokes are going home who live locally. And I thought, shall I or shan't I? Anyway, I took a chance, and I buckled on the belt and bayonet to make it look a bit official, and I went down to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth was absolutely dead. There wasn't a soul anybody anywhere, and I was going to go home, and the bus conductor who was on the bus that would take me down to where I lived at Highbury, he said, oh, your wife's going on the beach. I said, on the beach? He said, yeah, they've opened a little bit of the beach, about 300 yards of it by Safe Parade Pier, and I think she's taking your little girl down there. So that meant getting on another bus and going down to the beach. And there was a little bit to the west of Safe Parade Pier, about 200 yards of shingle. And in the meantime, troops were still going on the pier to get the landing craft that was down the bottom. And I walked for two or three minutes, and then someone called my name out. It was my wife, and she was there with my little girl and a bottle of milk. I drank the bottle of milk, said goodbye, can't stop, and went back. Because I couldn't stop, I had to get back as quick as possible. And I did get back without getting caught, so I was quite lucky, really. After having a church service in the church at Glyndebourne, we were marched down to the dock at Newhaven, and we got onto an RTC, which is landing craft tank, quite a big vessel this was. That was it. We set sail around about 7 o'clock in the evening, and we made our way along the coast till we got to a place that the Navy called Piccadilly Circus, which was an area at the back of the Isle of Wight. And from then on, it was a matter of where were we going, and we actually landed on Gold Beach. When you arrive on a beach like that, how do you feel? Terrified. No doubt about it. You'd be absolutely, telling lies if you said you weren't. You were frightened, obviously. Once you got off the beach, and we made our way westward towards Armagh, and I can remember eventually when we got out of Normandy and down through France and into Belgium, we suddenly thought, well, perhaps this is coming towards the end and we're going to be able to go home soon. I don't know whether it didn't happen that way, but that's our thoughts at the time, that once we broke through, I thought that perhaps won't be long before we were going back home. And I think that was every soldier's thought, to go back home, obviously. Yeah. I can remember a Sherman tank outside and letting his beezer off, a beezer being a kind of machine gun, but this time he was firing it up in the air, and as far as we know, he got the message that it was a ceasefire. So I think it was May the 8th, I think it was, that they decided that there'd be a ceasefire, and Yeah, that was it. Everything kind of went, flat then. What happens from now? How long before we get home? That was the biggest question. Obviously, coming back to Portsmouth was, it was kind of a bit of a dream, really. It was wonderful to get home, really was. And to see red buses running and things like that. Although it was really, post-war, like after the war, and it was all a bit drab, I suppose. But to me, it was wonderful to be home again, go and see all my family, my wife and baby, and go and see my mother and what have you. Yeah, it was very wonderful. It's up to the young people now to think about it and make sure that the memory of Normandy will always be going on and on, so that young people can remember what happened on those particular days, especially the chaps that never came back.